Okay, so picture this. You're standing at the top of a water slide. There's no safety inspection, no lawyer approval, and the guy who built it literally just thought, hey, what if we made a loop? You push off and immediately realize you've made a terrible mistake. Welcome to the 1980s, when water parks were essentially human crash test facilities disguised as summer fun. I'm talking about slides that knocked people unconscious, wave pools nicknamed grave pools, and test runs where employees literally were paid to lose teeth or experience 9 Gs of force. And somehow, we all miss it? Look, I know I could just drive to any modern water park and be perfectly safe, but that's exactly the problem. These new places are so sanitized and focus grouped to death that they've lost something essential. That genuine fear that you might actually die on a Tuesday afternoon in New Jersey. But how did we actually get here? There's a lot of different information on how early water parks actually started. Most sources list Switzerland in the 1800s as a start of modern water parks, but no one mentions any name or place. And to be fair, those only mention to have some pools, waterfalls, and hot springs. Just look at this. These were just filled with water back in the days. Boring. We're looking for the early terrifying stuff. That actually started in 1847 Berlin with something called a steam wave bath. And yes, it's exactly as Victorian and weird as it sounds. Just some steam-powered waves in a river. This was apparently peak entertainment, even though I couldn't find any images for it, nor could the rest of the internet. But it gets weirder. Bavaria's king, Ludwig II, a guy who was clearly bored, decided to electrify an artificial lake in his palace grotto just to make waves for his entertainment. And guess how he died? He drowned. Yeah. Germany was basically the Silicon Valley of dangerous water attractions. In 1905, they built something called Undosa on Lake Starnberg, just massive pontoons agitating lake water to make waves. Then in 1912, they built the first proper wave pool, and get this, that thing is still running today. Meanwhile, in 1906 New Zealand, the Kiwis stepped it up a notch. They had this Wonderland water chute where people rode wooden sleds down ramps into lakes, basically turning humans into skipping stones. The fact that the government officials couldn't resist trying it tells you everything about their safety standards. Herbert Sellner patented a similar design in 1923 Minnesota where riders would skip across lakes for up to 100 feet. The key thing here is that these early designers actually thought they were being safe. They were trying to make controlled thrills. At the time, officials just had no idea what controlled meant. But those harmless-looking experiments, they were about to spark one of the most dangerous arms races in amusement park history. It took 2 world wars for things to get serious. Big Surf opened in Tempe, Arizona in 1969, a 2.5 million gallon wave pool in the middle of the desert. This thing could produce 5-foot waves that actual surfers would travel to ride. It had an artificial beach and everything. Here's the crazy part. Big Surf worked. It operated for 51 years and became an engineering landmark because it was built by people who actually understood water and physics. Revolutionary concept, I know. Then in 1977, Wet n Wild Orlando opened and changed everything. This wasn't a hotel pool with some slides slapped on it. This was a purpose-built water park. Wave pools, 2 rides, multiple slides, all for one admission price. George Millay, the guy who founded it, had already co-created SeaWorld, so he kind of knew what he was doing. First year was rough. They lost $600,000, probably from all the rain that year, but by year 2, they were making money. And by the 1980s, they had 1.3 million visitors per year. That success basically broke everyone's brain. The 1980s were when every entrepreneur, municipality, and resort developer looked at Wet n Wild's success and thought, hold my beer. Suddenly, water parks were popping up everywhere. Texas got Schlitterbahn with natural spring water. California got Raging Waters. Wisconsin Dells added 5 major water parks and called itself the water park capital of the world, which, respect. But here's where it gets insane. There were basically no safety regulations, which meant designers could try literally anything. Want to build a 76-foot near vertical drop slide? Sure. Want to make a slide that goes in a complete loop? Why not? Want to create a wave pool so violent that lifeguards are pulling out 30 people every weekend? Apparently that's fine too. And then there was Action Park. Oh man, Action Park. This place opened in 1978 in Vernon, New Jersey, and it was like if someone asked, what if we made a theme park but specifically designed to hurt people? The crown jewel was the Cannonball Loop, and I cannot stress this enough. This was a water slide with a complete vertical loop. The stories about this thing are legendary. When they tested it with dummies, the dummies got torn apart. When they opened it for employee testing and offered workers $100 to try it, people came out with bloody noses. They even went down in full hockey gear. After 1 month, the state shut it down. Later inspections showed riders were experiencing 9 Gs of force in that loop. For reference, astronauts experience about 3 Gs during launch. Oh, and there were human teeth embedded in the slide from previous riders. Human teeth. But the Cannonball Loop wasn't even Action Park's only horror show. Their wave pool got nicknamed the Grave Pool because multiple people drowned and lifeguards were pulling out 30 struggling swimmers every weekend. At a normal pool, a lifeguard might make 1 or 2 rescues in an entire season. They had a Tarzan swing, where you swung into an ice-cold spring-fed pool, and the temperature shock reportedly gave at least 1 person a heart attack. The Kamikaze and Geronimo slides were so steep that riders would literally become airborne mid-slide. And then there was the Aqua Scoot. You rode a plastic sled down a metal slide to skim across a shallow pool. And if you didn't lean back perfectly, your sled would dig into the water and launch you headfirst into, well, whatever was in front of you. This was peak, let's just see what happens engineering. And paying customers were the test subjects, so yeah, early water parks were definitely terrifying. By the mid-1980s, all this experimentation started catching up with them. Big time. Action Park alone saw at least 6 guest deaths during its run. 2 people died in 1982, 1 drowned in the wave pool, another got electrocuted by faulty equipment in the kayak ride. More deaths in 1984 and 1987. The lawsuits were piling up. In 1984-85, just the Alpine slide caused dozens of serious injuries and 1 death. A New Jersey grand jury indicted the park's management on 110 counts of safety violations. And here's the kicker. The owner, Gene Mulvihill, admitted he was operating without liability insurance because it was cheaper to just fight lawsuits than pay insurance premiums. But the incident that really changed everything happened in 1997 at Waterworld USA in California. A group of high school seniors decided to ignore the lifeguard and ride a slide together in a chain. The weight caused the bonsai pipeline slide to collapse mid-ride, sending them plummeting 30 feet. 1 girl died, 32 others were injured. That's when the states finally said, okay, maybe we should actually regulate these things. Suddenly, water parks needed engineering reviews, regular inspections, and actual safety standards. The Wild West era was officially over. Action Park finally shut down in 1996, crushed by legal fees and insurance costs. But here's the thing that's easy to forget. People absolutely loved these death traps. For teenagers in the 80s and 90s, these places weren't just attractions, they were proving grounds. Going to a water park was like joining a secret society. You'd have your first crush in the lazy river, face peer pressure on the biggest slide, and there was this unspoken competition to not chicken out. Getting hurt wasn't just expected, it was almost a badge of honor. Action Park sold t-shirts that said, "I survived Action Park," and people wore them proudly. There was something ritualistic about surviving these places, like a rite of passage that you couldn't get anywhere else. The marketing reflected this too. Ads didn't promise safety or family fun, they promised danger. Are you brave enough? Wasn't just a slogan, it was a genuine question. And the answer might literally be no. When you and your friends survived something genuinely dangerous together, it created a bond that's hard to replicate. Even if that experience involved temporary unconsciousness and potential dental work. By the 2000s, the party was over. Insurance costs skyrocketed. Lawsuits were everywhere, and new designs had to prioritize three things: safety, efficiency, and not getting sued. Out went the experimental loops and insane drops. In came shorter lines, enclosed tubes, strict weight limits, and enough padding to wrap a small building. Everything got rounded corners, non-slip surfaces, and more safety redundancies than a nuclear power plant. Don't get me wrong, modern water parks are engineering marvels. Injuries are rare, deaths are almost unheard of, and parents can actually relax. But something was definitely lost. That genuine edge of danger, the knowledge that you might actually get hurt, added a psychological thrill that no amount of safety engineering can replicate. The stakes felt real because they were real. Modern water parks are designed by committee and focus group to death. They're fun for all ages, which usually translates to exciting for no one in particular. Not everything from the chaos era disappeared, though. Budapest's Yellert Baths still runs its 1927 wave pool with the original mechanics. Point Mallard's 1970 wave pool in Alabama is still splashing people. Big Surf operated until 2020, 51 years of actual functional engineering. The old Action Park site, it's now Mountain Creek Water Park. You can still swim in what used to be the grave pool, though it's way shallower and safer now. They even brought back the Action Park name for a few years around 2014, though without any of the actual dangerous stuff. Some newer parks are finding creative ways to bring back thrills safely. Magnetic launch systems blast you uphill on water coasters. Looping slides made a comeback with proper engineering and escape hatches. Trapdoor launches drop you into near vertical slides with precision timing. And if you really want that old school terror, you gotta travel. Parks in Brazil, China, and the UAE are building slides that would make American insurance companies physically ill. Brazil's Kilimanjaro is 164 feet tall. China's Chamlong Water Park has indoor and outdoor mega attractions that push every boundary. Some places are even experimenting with VR water slides and AI-controlled wave pools. The innovation spirit isn't dead, it's just supervised now. So were the early water parks terrifying? Obviously. Dangerous? Absolutely. Poorly regulated death traps that probably shouldn't have existed? Yeah, probably. But were they unforgettable experiences that created lifelong memories? Also, yes. Look, I'm not saying we should bring back slides that knock people unconscious or wave pools where people regularly drown. That's obviously insane. But we did lose something when we made everything completely safe and predictable. That psychological thrill of genuine risk, the knowledge that you might actually get hurt, added something that no focus group can replicate. Modern water parks are marvels of safety and efficiency, but they're also kind of sanitized. The wild creativity of the early days is gone, replaced by calculated thrills and liability protection. And maybe that's for the best, but man, part of me really wants to experience that chaos just once. So what do you think? What's the wildest water park ride you've ever been on? Would you go back to the Action Park days if you could? Or are you glad your kids won't lose teeth on the loop slide? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories about the good old days when everything was way more dangerous and somehow more fun, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, we're just getting started. Until next time, stay safe out there, because apparently that's what we do now.